PWF Empire is live. Thank you all for tuning in this Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern on pwfempire.com and youtube.com/PWF Empire. I am Jay, and tonight I'm joined on the hosting panel tonight by Evan and Lucas with his Kmart shopping ass.
Kmart shopping ass. I don't look like John Cena.
I'm telling you, that is I love that insult. I'm gonna try to use that as much as I possibly can. Like, I want to argue with somebody just so I can use that on them. Like, my wild days, they're way back in the days, but I just feel like I want to get wild once again. You know, start some beef, some drama with somebody, just so I can say, "With your Kmart shopping ass."
I just want to know since when did AJ Styles have this much swag?
Well, see, if you had watched New Japan, you would know that AJ has swag.
Hey, I watched TNA. Doesn't that count for something? I used to see him in TNA.
Hell no. No, the hell it does not. And that's the funny thing. Out of all of the places that AJ Styles has been around the world, he's been in TNA for the longest and by far weakest. Like, he was the great, phenomenal AJ Styles and great in the ring, but his character, I couldn't stand his old cheesy ass. And then the million different iterations that they tried to have of AJ towards the end a little bit. You know, in his last few years in TNA, they tried to make him Ric Flair. I remember that one. Then some other crazy stuff. I don't know. But, yeah, TNA is definitely not an indication. So please don't insult him in that way. Speaking of AJ Styles, we have a few AJ topics on the show tonight. We also have some discussions on Bret Hart. He's been making some waves lately with his interactions with, or I can't say interactions because it hasn't been those two going at each other. It's just been more like intermediaries doing interviews and stuff. Bret Hart and Seth Rollins. We have a few more topics to get to concerning Money in the Bank this Sunday. We are going to kick this show off tonight with AJ Styles and John Cena. They had a contract signing on Raw, and there was an interesting setup to this whole situation. John Cena provided AJ Styles with two contracts. One of them was a contract for a singles match with... Could you... Thank you. So there were two contracts. One for a singles match with John Cena, and the other one was John Cena basically telling the entire world, if AJ signs this one, he's a bitch, because this is going to allow the Bullet Club to come down to the ring. Well, AJ ends up signing the one for a one-on-one match with John Cena, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on this segment featuring these two guys ahead of their match at Money in the Bank.
John Cena made AJ Styles his bitch on Monday Night Raw. That's a nice way. Well, actually, that's not a nice way of putting it. That's the most genuine way of putting it. But that's exactly what happened on Monday Night Raw. John Cena made AJ Styles his bitch. And you could even argue last week it was the same case. But you know what? Last week they were kind of equal on the microphone. But this week it was complete dominance and ownage of one John Cena on the microphone against AJ Styles. I felt like Styles was repeating his lines from last week. You know, he's talking about, what if I was here 15 years ago? You weren't. And I'm glad Cena told him to shut up, because that's irrelevant. He wasn't here 15 years ago.
I like that, though.
But why do you...
That was really good.
No. I don't play this what-if crap. I go off facts. I go off what's happening right now. Don't give me this 15-year nonsense. Besides, 15 years. Okay, 2001, right? AJ Styles wasn't a big star in 2001, so why are they playing this up as if it's been 15 years in the making of AJ Styles being in the WWE? No, it has only been talked about.
You are reading way too much into that.
Well, I'm sorry,
but that's a nice little number, 15 years.
Getting back on track. I don't see anything of importance that Styles accomplished in this promo other than saying Kmart shopping. And by the way, let me get to that line, that insult. Didn't Cesaro use that line on John Cena a few years ago? Where'd you get your shoes at? Kmart? Remember that line?
I guarantee you Cesaro did not deliver it with the oomph that AJ did.
He didn't.
I don't even remember that, but I can guarantee you not possible at all. So
I'm
AJ
just saying,
wins that one.
I'm just saying, he kind of used stuff that has already been used on Cena. I mean, this was Cena's argument last week. If you're going to use material, use new one on me, not old, generic, basic shit. John Cena, you know, he went right at the club. He insulted the club. He insulted all these indie guys. I just loved everything about John Cena. He had the fire last night. I'm not saying Styles didn't. He once again did have fire in him as well, AJ Styles. But, man, I mean, John Cena, since coming back to the WWE, I've always known him to be a good mic worker and all, but this is like another level of John Cena here that we've been seeing the last few weeks.
And you want to know why it's another level of John Cena? Because it's against AJ Styles. That's why I can't sit here and underplay the role that AJ Styles has played in this entire situation. The reason why John Cena is rising to the occasion is because of those 15 years, or however you want to get technical about it, however many years it's been since people have been thinking about AJ Styles versus John Cena. All of that intrigue, all of those dream sequences or whatever it is, that is fueling John Cena in this moment in time. That's why he's going out there and he's kicking ass. And of course, John Cena, he's fucking awesome. Like, I love John Cena on the mic. I said it last week. I'll say it once again. The energy that he brings to the ring, it's unparalleled in WWE. It's amazing, and he stands on his own in that regard. One thing that I will say in favor of AJ Styles, I do like that he was talking about, if I had come here, 15 years ago, you wouldn't have had all of this, because John Cena is standing where he is right now. He's standing on a mountain of all of his titles that he's won, all of these accolades that he's gotten over the years. And AJ Styles is saying the only reason why you have that is because I wasn't there. If I was in WWE, I would have taken your place. And there would have been like a, what was
so
that
you really
Freaky Friday where they switched places? It doesn't matter if it's true or not, because I can sit here and say, no fucking way.
Exactly.
Hell no.
Exactly.
But it does not matter if it's true or not. Like, he doesn't have to go out there and say things that are only true. His objective is to piss his opponent off. His objective is to get heat on himself, and he succeeded at that.
You think he succeeded at that? You think Cena was the one, if anything, Cena antagonized Styles the most when he said, you either sign this contract that's going to make you look like a bitch, or you sign the other contract that proves you're going to be a man. That's antagonizing right there.
They both antagonize each other.
But at the end of the day, Cena pissed him off the most. He got the better end of it.
And I'll actually agree with you. I think I absolutely loved what John Cena said on the mic, and I'll put him above AJ. They both played their roles very well. I'm just trying to make sure I give credit to both guys and what they did, because it's like you're giving all of the credit to John Cena and saying,
no.
Boo,
that's not the case at all.
Like, I want to make sure I kind of even it out a bit. But if I'm ranking the two, of course I'd put John Cena above AJ Styles in that exchange.
That's because AJ Styles has come in with a very cookie cutter approach, and it's been he said the same exact things that any other guy who's faced John Cena who's been in a similar position has said. That's why John Cena has been made to look that much better in these promos, because AJ Styles, whether he was fed it or whether he came up with it himself, I'm going to go with the former here, but yeah, he's pretty much said the same stuff. So John Cena, of course, is going to say same shit, different day, be a man and face me, and Cena has been great in these promos. I think this contract signing was great. It went well. It did what it needed to do. It wasn't excessive. It wasn't overbooked. I'm glad that it's at least booked as a one-on-one match. I would not put it past WWE whatsoever for there to be the run-ins at the pay-per-view. I mean, come on. We've been watching this product for way too many years to just be like, oh, well, since they signed a contract that said it would just be a one-on-one match, I believe it. Like, no, I don't believe it. But at least that's the tone that's going into the pay-per-view. We're going into it believing that it's going to be John Cena versus AJ Styles, kayfabe-wise. As fans who've been watching the product for many, many years, we're going to sit there and say, all right, well, it's a pretty good chance that's not really going to happen. But either way, I can't wait for the match. And this contract signing hyped me up for it and got me more excited for the match. And that's exactly what it was supposed to do on this go-home show. Yeah. So mission accomplished for me. And I thought the Kmart shopping ass thing was awesome. I was like belly laughing over
it. Was so random. Like awesome. It was so random. He's talking about I'm not gonna be this other indie wrestler, whatever the hell he said, and then he's like, with your Kmart shopping ass. Like, I did not expect that from him, but I don't know. I guess that's what made it much more awesome, the fact that it was so random. But I'll tell you one thing: this Sunday, AJ Styles has to win. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, because I'm sitting here and I'm telling you guys all this shit John Cena has been saying, talking all this smack. AJ Styles has to win on Sunday. Otherwise, I got to agree with everybody else that thinks Cena's out to bury Styles, because that's what this feud has seemed like so far. It seems like Cena has the upper hand throughout the entire feud so far. I think AJ Styles is going to win.
Well, the reason why John Cena has the upper hand is because there's not much that there's not any other way that it could possibly go when you have someone coming at him from the angle that AJ Styles is coming at him. Lucas, you were talking about how what AJ Styles said, you know, you've heard it before. Then I had, you know, people in the chat, Hoodies, he's saying, to be fair, John Cena said the exact same stuff John Cena says in these promos.
No,
that's
he doesn't.
because that situation still exists. The fact that John Cena is the biggest star in the biggest professional wrestling company in the entire world, and you have all of these guys who are making their name all around the world, and they come and they face John Cena, and he's like the franchise in WWE. So as long as that situation exists, then people approaching John Cena from that perspective is always going to exist. And I mean, what does he really say? What can he really say other than, yeah, bitch, I've been here. I've won. I'm the man. You're the one that has something to prove, not me. So,
well, to be fair,
it still exists. So,
to be fair, there has been times, and again, I hate to use, you know, somebody's other name here because I know you hate this guy, but there have been other times where...
Wait, who are you talking about? I don't hate anybody.
CM Punk. There has been times
I don't
where...
hate CM Punk. I have nothing but his best interests at heart.
But let me make my point. There's been times where Cena has had a feud against somebody, for example, like a CM Punk, and I didn't necessarily think this was completely one-sided, that because Cena was a franchise player, all of a sudden, you know, he has the upper hand, because we saw in that feud all the things that CM Punk did going into Chicago. It kind of twisted the world around. It kind of made it feel upside down that CM Punk had the upper hand and not John Cena. All I'm asking for is kind of the same thing here with AJ Styles. But it just feels like no matter what they try to do, John Cena is going to have that advantage. Punk, at least, you know, he made that effort in making it seem unpredictable. Like, you don't know who the real underdog is here. I don't get that same sense here with AJ Styles.
You want to know why? Because AJ Styles is not CM Punk.
True.
And AJ Styles should not be an underdog here. He should be on even footing with John Cena, because
that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
that's the type of story that they're trying to tell us. But based off of Styles' booking so far, it's really hard to follow. It's hard to follow and believe, okay, yeah, you know what, he is on the same level as John Cena when he hasn't even really won a feud yet. I mean, I guess you could say he did beat Jericho more times than Jericho beat him, but ultimately the feud ended with Jericho winning at Mania, so it's hard for me to... That kind of gets lost in the shuffle. And then, you know, you go into the Roman Reigns feud, although those matches were excellent matches, he still lost them both. So it's like, you know, AJ Styles really does need to win this match.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, though, I would rather... if John Cena's going to win this first match, I don't care. I just want AJ Styles to win the feud. That's what really the main goal
that's the
should
thing.
Be.
But that's the thing. If Cena wins on Sunday, there is no more feud.
Well, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, as far as like picking the winners and how the match should be played, we're going to have a show later on in the week to discuss that. It's going to be on Friday as of now. Don't quote me on that, but we'll see how things go later on in the week. From this point, we're going to move on unless there's anything more you all want to say about AJ and Cena.
Last thing I gotta say, maybe if he was a face, I don't know. I kind of feel like maybe if AJ Styles was a face, you would feel that equality here with both of these guys, not one of them feeling like an underdog in this match. But hey, I still don't have a problem with him being a heel. I'm just saying, now that I'm starting to think about it more and more, I do kind of feel like John Cena is right here in the sense that, hey, if the universe was really divided, if Styles had stuck to who he was prior to joining the club in WWE, maybe this feud right now would really feel like, you know, a bigger dream match than it already is.
See, when you say something like that, we're getting into a point where we could possibly be playing with the butterfly effect, because you would have to go even further back, because is it just AJ Styles being a face that makes him equal to John Cena, or would it be AJ Styles actually winning feuds? You know,
True.
maybe that would have had him, you know, to the point where he's equal with WWE. So when you're talking about stuff like that, if we go back to this point, then it brings up the question, well, should we go back even further? Because AJ Styles simply being a face, I don't think that that would actually solve a lot of the criticisms that people have directed toward this feud. But I will say I'm enjoying it now. I think both characters are firing on all cylinders right now, and can't wait to see this match on Sunday. Next up, we have Buy or Sell. I'm actually going to go to Twitter, and this was suggested by Mr. Slade Wilson. Very familiar name there. I don't know if any of you guys get that Slade Wilson there, but I definitely do. AKA Ant Mac 45. Buy or sell WWE doing brand exclusive pay-per-view. So there are rumors floating about that WWE, with the brand extension, they're going to split them up completely, not even sharing a pay-per-view schedule, except for the big four, or should I say the big three, and you know, Survivor Series is still hanging around. But yeah, there's talk now that WWE may be splitting up the shows and having them do their own separate pay-per-views outside of the big ones of the year. So would you all buy or sell these brand exclusive pay-per-views from WWE?
Well, personally, I feel kind of mixed on this because, man, you know, I like the idea of having brand-specific pay-per-views because then, you know, each side of the roster gets their own night every month. And I think with the WWE Network, it works better to have that. If this brand split is going to happen, as it obviously is, you know, having it this way on the WWE Network, I think, works a lot better than if it was the standard way that pay-per-views used to be, where you actually had to buy it and it cost all this money and whatnot. I think that would be a complete disaster if that was the case. But since it could be on the network, I think having 2 pay-per-views a month is all right, because you're spreading things out a little bit more and making each brand feel like it has more meaning to it. If there's going to be 2 world titles and you're going to make each brand feel like it's its own entity here, then yeah, I mean, each having its own pay-per-view I think is a good thing, and then the big 4 being the combined event is good as well. You know, the concern is where there is it too much wrestling. You know, you're going to have Sunday a pay-per-view and then Monday Raw, Tuesday SmackDown, and that's now going to be twice out of the month instead of once. So you start to wonder, is that almost too much wrestling for people to watch? So I can see where the concern comes up.
You have Impact on Wednesdays too. Of course, everybody has to watch that.
What's that? Since when did NXT change their name?
But, yeah, I mean, there you go. And if you're not even just watching WWE, even more. So, you know, that's when people start to wonder, is that excessive? But I personally think having each brand with its own pay-per-view, it's going to make the brands feel like they mean more. So, for the sake of the brand split, I'd buy that.
I gotta sell the hell out of this. I don't want to see 2 pay-per-views from 2 different shows, 2 different brands. I mean, come on now. This is getting ridiculous. First of all, I would understand if they do this a year or 2 from now, but doing it right off the bat as soon as the brand split happens, that's terrible, because we've already seen how bad Monday Night Raw is. In order for them to do 2 pay-per-views for 2 shows a month, both shows have to be really good for us to even get behind these pay-per-views and be invested in them and be hyped up for them. I don't get that sense right now that we should be getting 2 pay-per-views a month for Raw and SmackDown. I don't know, man. I gotta say, Evan, you're right. Like, this is too much wrestling. At least for me, it's too much damn wrestling. Like, 2 shows, 2 pay-per-views a month? No. I mean, I know this would be great for the WWE Network, don't get me wrong, you know, the subscriptions and all of that. That's definitely going to come in handy for them. But it's not just about the quantity that matters in this case. It's all about the quality as well and the execution of it. And if these pay-per-views are not producing, if they aren't executing right, What makes anybody think that by having 2 pay-per-views, it's going to be the most successful thing ever when that could basically be your biggest enemy, is turning down those fans that don't want to see these pay-per-views? I'm sorry, but this is a bad move.
I am not on board with 2 pay-per-views a month. That is, I don't know. Of course, we could possibly get into a situation where WWE makes it work, but the way that the product is structured right now, and especially with WWE not giving me any kind of indication that they are serious about their shit going into this brand split, because we could talk all we want about how they're going to turn it up on July 19th or whenever SmackDown goes live. They need to start putting in that work right now, and I'm not seeing that work be put in. I'm seeing a lot, or I'm hearing a lot of platitudes, and I'm hearing, because we keep hearing over and over again how this is the greatest Money in the Bank ever, and I don't see how the hell that is possible when the pay-per-view hasn't even happened yet. That's kind of weird. You could say greatest card maybe, but greatest show, we don't know how it's going to turn out. So it's just situations like that where I'm uneasy about what WWE is doing with the product right now, and then splitting it up and adding more content to that. They don't have me in a position where I'm confident with what they're putting on. So
yeah, and the rosters,
I'm going to have to sell it.
Yeah, and the rosters aren't even that established to a point where they should be showcased on 2 different pay-per-views. You take a look at half of the roster that appears on Raw, and pretty much all of these mid-carders need some work. They need some serious development before you showcase them on their own pay-per-view. I mean, people are not going to care to see guys like, I can name many guys right now that probably nobody would care to watch on a single pay-per-view because they just don't draw. They aren't popular. They aren't established. So they really have to put in some work, as Jay said, before debuting these 2 exclusive pay-per-views a month again. Again, this will benefit the WWE Network, and that's great and all, but there's also a setback in that, in the fact that there's not going to be that much interest in that regard.
Okay, next up on Buy or Sell, we have the Money in the Bank match. WWE has been mixing things up lately with the way that they've been trying to book this Money in the Bank match, and we've seen so many different pieces mixed together with how they've been building this match. I know in Monday Night Raw it had a situation where it was Chris Jericho versus Dean Ambrose at the main event of the show. Then you had Kevin Owens on commentary. Was it Sami Zayn on commentary with him too? Then you had Cesaro as the guest ring announcer. Then Alberto Del Rio, he was the timekeeper. That's one example of what they did. But there's a lot of stuff going on with this Money in the Bank build. So I present it to you all right now. Do you buy or sell the build for this Money in the Bank match?
Yeah, honestly, we've talked a lot these last few weeks about the Money in the Bank match concept and how it's become trite and, kind of just annoying at this point. And the cash-ins is really a lot left to be desired at this point. Or nothing left to be desired, because they've kind of done everything there is to do with it. And now it's kind of become saturated in a lot of ways. But this in particular Money in the Bank ladder match is probably going to be quite good. I can imagine it being very good. Actually, most of them are very good matches, but what comes after, not so great a lot of the time. This build-up here, I think it's had its ups and downs. I think this go-home episode of Raw in particular was an up for me. Not for the Dean Ambrose-Jericho match, because I didn't even watch it, I'll be honest. I DVR'd Raw and then just went back and watched what happened after the match was over, because that Asylum match scarred me for life with the Chris Jericho and Dean Ambrose scenario.
Don't blame me.
It was too much.
You do not have to apologize there, bro.
It is just, it's over for me, man. I can't handle it ever again. After seeing Ambrose mop Jericho's head, I was done. And I'm still done with that match. It's too bad, because that could have been good, damn it. But anyway, I really like the Sami Zayn and Cesaro match. That's one thing that was very good. And not only that, but you have 2 baby faces who aren't hugging and shaking hands and more or less just saying, hey, I know we have a lot of history, but you got something to prove to me. And I liked it because it made it feel like it was really every man for himself. And that ending brawl was fine for me, too. And Jericho
and
holding
that
up
sunset flip powerbomb, though, we got to mention that in Cesaro versus... Cesaro versus Sami Zayn. Fucking
Yeah,
awesome. I love that move, and then when you add in the fact that Sami Zayn did it flawlessly, and also, of course, Cesaro, that move takes a lot from your opponent too, or it requires a lot from your opponent, and phenomenal.
Absolutely. Yeah, and he actually won the match off of it, too. It wasn't just some nice, pretty move for a near fall. It was actually a win, and it was impactful. So I really like that element, too. And, you know, honestly, like I said, it does feel like it's kind of every man for himself. I like that Dean Ambrose also during and I know we're going to talk more about the situation with the world title, but when Ambrose mentioned that the money, like, kind of used the Money in the Bank match as a way of saying, hey, you know, I could still walk out with the title come Money in the Bank. I thought that was good implementation of it, too. So I think that the Go Home show did a good job of selling that. Now, as far as the overall goes, it had its ups and downs. But I'm going to say that this Go Home show for the build-up was good, and overall good enough for me to be looking forward to this match, despite the fact that, yeah, the Money in the Bank concept, it kind of, you know, can be dragged through the mud a little bit here. I'm looking forward to the match itself. Like, if we're just looking at this pay-per-view, I'm going to buy this build-up.
I sell it.
Uh-oh.
It's no big secret. It's because it's Money in the Bank. I'm never going to buy anything that has to do with Money in the Bank.
Even if it's a good build-up?
Yep.
Wow.
It's just a build-up to... It's like they're bringing me to the top of the mountain just to push me off. So I'm expecting to be pushed off at some point, so I don't give a rat's ass about it. They're going to be placed in a situation where they have to prove me wrong. And I'm hoping that they prove me wrong. And you could say that I'm being unfair. I don't give a damn. I'll accept it. I'm being unfair.
So based off the contestants that are in this match, you're not willing to give any of them a real chance of actually being legitimate if they win the briefcase?
No.
Wow. Kevin Owens?
I don't want Kevin Owens to win Money in the Bank.
Dean Ambrose?
See, the thing is, we enter into this weird situation with Money in the Bank where you're like, okay, but this person is talented. They could win Money in the Bank and they could win a world championship.
No, but it's not about...
That makes it worse. Like, if you're so goddamn talented, I want to see a journey to the top.
But wouldn't the journey...
a world championship.
Yeah, but exactly. So wouldn't the journey start by winning the briefcase and then building them up from there?
And why is the briefcase necessary?
Because that's...
Why can't we just say build them up from there?
I mean, I see your point, but the thing is, winning the briefcase, winning that ladder match, it's a moment in itself. It's a career-defining match. So you could argue that by winning that match, it kind of does put you at a pedestal where, hey, you're important now. You're seen as something bigger of value just based off of that match alone. I don't know. I guess ever since the ladder match has been taken off the WrestleMania card, maybe it's lost some importance. But I still get the feeling that when you win a Money in the Bank ladder match, it's a big fucking moment in your career.
Yeah,
so,
I got that with Damien Sandow too. Yeah.
Oh man, I guess you're really coming down hard on this, but I'm gonna buy it. I think WWE did a decent job as well, especially with last week. You know, that mic work by Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho and Cesaro, all that back and forth talk. It was great. And then all these matches that they've put over the last 2 weeks of them facing each other, those have been pretty fun matches as well. I do wish we had more mic time with these guys because, you know, that could really get to show us who these guys really are and how good they really are on the microphone and as far as overall character development and things like that. But we didn't get to see that much mic time. That's one thing I wish we would have gotten more of. But hey, I'm still okay with that because we got good matches out of it. And now this Sunday, we just have to wait and see. I do admit, though, this is probably the most star-studded Money in the Bank ladder match in a few years that I can recall. I know last year's was certainly filled with a bunch of bums. This year, they did a better job at, you know, recovering and having star power in the Money in the Bank ladder match.
And we have Eugene Price in the chat saying Jay is insane right now. Yes, I understand that in this age of and you know, in this is awesome era, nobody gives a damn about storytelling, nobody gives a damn about character development except me. So me, being the one-man wolf pack fighting the good fight over character development in this age of This Is Awesome. I know I'm insane, and I accept that.
No, CJ, you're not alone on that, because that's exactly how I feel too. I'm just analyzing it from the standpoint of the build-up to this Money in the Bank ladder match by itself. I'm taking away all of the other elements and just looking at the build-up to this particular match and saying, was this good build-up? Yeah, it was pretty damn good build-up. I'm not saying the Money in the Bank concept's amazing or that this would do any good for the people that have been mentioned, like a Kevin Owens, who I believe has a really good shot of winning, but is it good for him? No, more than likely not. But again, like I said, I'm just looking at the build-up to this match by itself, and I know you don't like the concept, and I know that's definitely the reason why you're selling the shit out of this. So I understand, man. But for me personally, I thought the build-up here did what it needed to do.
So Jay, you're not
entertaining.
You're not going to be the first. You're not going to be jumping out of your seat if this match on Sunday turns out to be like the match of the night.
Maybe, I don't know. We'll see.
All right.
We'll see. But, yeah, I'll leave it at that. We'll see.
By the way, just a suggestion here. You should probably do a live reaction video of the winner of the Money in the Bank briefcase.
I don't care. I don't care. You want to see a live reaction video of me praying that they aren't fucked over? Like, is that what you want to see?
Yeah, I want to see your face on whoever wins the briefcase. I want to see your reaction to that. See if this is the greatest thing ever or if this is the worst thing ever. Hey, what if Eric Rowan shows up? I want to see you live react to that.
God, I hope not. Because I made a promise to the fans.
What would Eric Rowan be doing there? Well, this would be WWE just putting the nail in the coffin. Go ahead. They're like, okay, well, yeah, we understand. He doesn't even like this concept anymore. He wants to get rid of the match to get rid of the concept. Let's go ahead and,
torture him.
Eric Bischoff, the special guest referee.
Why the hell not? Make him the SmackDown general manager.
See, I made a promise to the fans that if Eric Rowan won Money in the Bank, I would jump out my window, and so I'm really hoping Eric Rowan does not show up. Because and that was the solo show I did on my channel, so anybody who saw that knows.
Okay.
And I probably shouldn't have just
You're a nice guy
everyone.
and all, but I just want to see how far you would go. So,
Yeah, well, I mean,
Eric Rowan?
The windows. I'm gonna have to just board this window up and say, "Oh, I can't get there, man. Sorry." But if Eric Rowan actually won Money in the Bank, I would literally just shake my head for every second up until.
Oh, it'd be the coolest thing ever. He might have a transformation. You guys don't know.
Oh, I mean, I'd love it because I'm an Eric Rowan fan, but at the same time, I made a bet that was a little steeper than I should have made it. But he's nowhere to be seen. Everything's gonna be fine, man. I'm not worried.
Out of everyone to get the benefit of the doubt from Lucas, Eric fucking Rowan.
Rowan.
For everyone to not get the benefit of the doubt from Lucas, Eric fucking Rowan is the one to get it.
Make him the seventh man. That mystery.
Oh God. Okay, so let's move on now. Perfect time to move on. We spent time on Eric Rowan. Okay. We're gonna discuss the Ambrose Asylum now, which also saw. I can't necessarily call it a reunion because there was no uniting of Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins, but all of the members, or the former members of the Shield, they technically were in the same ring at the same time during the Ambrose Asylum segment. This was Dean Ambrose serving as the host to get to the bottom of the issues that Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins are facing with each other before they head into their match at Money in the Bank. So this segment ended with a physical altercation and actually Dean Ambrose hitting Roman Reigns with dirty deeds. So Dean Ambrose has wormed his way into the story that's going on here because he says that he will win the Money in the Bank briefcase, and when he does, he's cashing in and he's walking out of Money in the Bank as a WWE World Heavyweight Champion. But aside from that possibility, we actually do have a match between Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, and they had some choice words for each other that were exchanged in this segment. So what did you guys think about this Ambrose Asylum here?
Oh, man. Wow. I mean, It was a great segment, don't get me wrong, but
Parts of it.
yeah, all that attention between Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, it's completely gone now. It's completely gone because I got the sense out of watching that promo that Dean Ambrose is the fucking man. That's the perception I got out of that segment because I'm listening to Seth Rollins and I'm listening to Roman Reigns, and they pretty much just piggybacked off of everything they said in those separate vignettes that we saw last week on Raw. And they basically just said it in person this time to each other. And I'm like, this isn't really anything new that they're saying here. It did get interesting when Rollins started saying, you would be nothing without me. You know, I carried you in the Shield. You know, all these other little lines that, you know, the fans were giving him pop for and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's still the same typical heel Seth Rollins. And with Roman Reigns, I mean, we've been talking about this for months, how this sympathetic figure that they've tried to perceive him as just doesn't work for a guy like him, you know, with that physique and that size. And yet here they are, after doing such a good job of consistency over the last 2 months with keeping him as the guy. Here they are last night showcasing him and trying to give him sympathy once again by mentioning the fact that, oh, you screwed me over at WrestleMania and we were your boys and this and that. No, Roman, this is not what I want to hear. I wanted to hear Roman Reigns verbally dismantle Seth Rollins, just, you know, punch him right in the face, do something, but not that stupid, oh, you know, people should have sympathy for me because Seth did this and that to me. No, that's not what this is about now. This is about you claiming you are the guy and shoving it in Seth Rollins' face and not giving a fuck about it. But that's not that's not what I got out of Roman Reigns, but it was still a pretty good segment. I'll give you that. But Dean Ambrose, man, towards the ending there, he just hit a home run for me. I mean, that segment was by far the best segment Dean Ambrose has had all year long. You know, what if I cash in on that night? And then, you know, he does dirty deeds on Roman Reigns and walks out like a badass. That's the Dean Ambrose I've wanted to see for a long time. I think the attention now is all on Dean Ambrose.
Which is very unfortunate because they had a whole hell of a lot of story to tell with Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose being there was nothing but a distractor for me. It's like they gave away everything that they had with Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns as individuals, and then they went for like the Shield feels. And me being a person at one point in time, I did have the Shield feels. You know, I wanted to see, anytime that I saw them together, it was amazing, it was awesome. And this time, however, I didn't get that because I wanted to see the development between the two individuals,
right,
Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. And you, of course, have all of the stuff that happened with the Shield. That's one part of the overall picture, but Dean Ambrose was in there, and I love the guy. But him and this little cheesy bullshit that he does, in some cases it works, in some cases it's entertaining, but in this case, it wasn't really. He was just a distractor for me, and I honestly wish that it wasn't an Ambrose Asylum session. I said Ambrose Asylum a session. Just all those A's, but I honestly wish it wasn't an Ambrose Asylum segment and that he was out of the fucking picture, because there was a lot that they could have told between Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins that they completely missed the boat on. Or at least it wasn't as significant as it could have been, because they threw a little bit in there, but shit, look at the way that Dean Ambrose, you know, hit dirty deeds on Roman Reigns. Like, I said this a while back before their match at Survivor Series, I believe. I wish Roman Reigns was the type of person that would get the jump on Dean Ambrose and do that shit. Because if this guy just told you to your damn face that he's going to take your title, and you're just like, oh, okay, well, it's time for us to jump Seth Rollins. Let's beat him up together. He just told you he's going to take your fucking title, and you just are all focused on Seth Rollins. Like, doesn't he deserve a little something too?
Yeah, they kind of played back off this, you know, babyface Roman Reigns that we've hated for a few months. And I don't know, I just didn't like that portion of it. Again, though, that, you know, this feud now feels secondary, and I guess it is going to lead to a triple threat. But right now, I just don't see the point in having Reigns versus Rollins anymore.
Yeah, honestly, this build-up for Rollins versus Reigns has been very hit and miss, and it's been mainly miss. And really, the best piece of build-up that we have had, other than the video packages, was when Rollins returned at the previous pay-per-view and actually attacked Reigns, you know, and that was like the planting of the seed. That's really the most like intense piece that we got, was that in the video packages. Other than that, any type of in-ring stuff that we've gotten with these two guys has been very minimal, and when we've gotten it, it hasn't been as good as you'd like it to be. Now, this segment I enjoyed so much, but not for the reason of Rollins and Reigns getting as good of build-up. It's more of, I enjoyed this segment because all three guys were in there. I liked the history piece. That really made me like reminisce on some cool moments over the last few years. It really did, and I think the crowd was feeling that too, so it was really cool. But yeah, Ambrose became one of the focus pieces of this. But him, if he does win Money in the Bank on Sunday, then it definitely does add an element, which I do like. I think that all three guys held their own on the mic. I think Roman Reigns did okay. He didn't need to say a whole lot and didn't say a whole lot. And yeah, you know, him trying to get sympathy does seem kind of, you know, a little bit over the top. But as someone said in the chat, you know, he really was telling the truth, you know, at the same time.
But it's in the past now.
It is in the past now, but the thing is, though, it's like, I think that they're trying to use it as an explanation for Reigns' motivation to be as pissed off with Rollins as he is, but I don't necessarily think it's being executed in the right way. I think Rollins really cut the best promo of them all, though. I loved when he said that, you know, he got injured carrying the company in 2015, and that he never really lost that title. You know, I know that's been, you know, jammed down our throats a bunch of times. They've said it. The commentary team has said it enough times so till they're blue in the face, but still, you know, I mean, it was definitely well executed on Rollins' part. Even though he is the same character he was before, I still liked what he had to say. Like, he's always a good promo. He was always a good promo, even as badly booked as he was at times. His promos were always still pretty damn good.
Well,
and Dean Ambrose really, you know, held his own as well. I liked that he was stirring the pot. And, you know, also trying to say, hey, I'm still here, too. I'm still here. I'm still relevant, even though that's hard to believe right now. This was the most... this was the most relevant...
by extension of him being a member of the Shield. That's it.
Of course, yeah. No, I mean, he's trying to say he's relevant, even as little as we may not believe that. This was the most relevant he's looked in the last 2+ months anyway. So
definitely, yep.
This segment definitely did some wonders for him. And then I like that, you know, again, just because him and Reigns have been getting along and have been friendly, he basically said, fuck that, and still hit him with his finish. I like that element too. So there was a lot of positives in there for me, even if it didn't do what it really needed to do, which was, you know, sell me on that main event. The reason I'm sold on that main event is just because I know it's going to be a good match, and because they've had good matches in the past, and Rollins versus Reigns is something we've been waiting for since November. I'm not sold on it because of this build-up. I'm more sold on it because of the video package than I am from this. But this segment entertained me in different ways, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, they're still gonna tell a story on Sunday with these two guys in the ring alone. You know, I'm pretty sure they're gonna do a great job at that. But the problem is, I feel like they use this segment not so much to build a main event, but as an excuse to throw Dean Ambrose into the picture and get him to kind of be the guy that's like, oh, we're going to use this guy, Dean Ambrose, as the guy to force you to watch what's going to happen this Sunday at Money in the Bank. And I feel like they didn't have to go that way, because you could easily still invest me on the idea of Seth Rollins wanting all this revenge on Roman Reigns for taking the title from him. But I don't know why they went this route. I really don't know why they went this direction. I feel like they could have held off on the Ambrose stuff until next week, where let's say if he does win the briefcase, you know, then you start building that up. But they did it now. I guess, you know, we can't complain about it too much. But at the end of the day,
yes, the hell I can. Yes, I can. You want me to complain about it more? Because I can.
And one thing about Rollins that Evan said there about the mic work, man, that's one thing I do got to give Seth Rollins credit for. He looks like he's different on the microphone now. I mean, he's still the same character, but the fire and delivery in his promos are definitely much more passionate than they were last year. And, you know, I got to give him props for that.
He seems like the same guy on the mic to me. I haven't noticed much of a difference, but yeah, if you want me to complain about this a little more, I'm just looking at what you were just talking about there. The fact that WWE, rather than promoting this one match, it's like they're promoting surprises and
speculation.
Like, speculation and what could happen next. So it's like Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins only exists as a step to get somewhere else.
Yeah.
And
that's bullshit
it
because
pisses me off.
Yeah, this has been a match.
Why is that not enough? Why is the fucking story that you had between those two not enough? All of the history that they've had with each other in WWE. And I've said this many times before. We got a situation going on right now with John Cena versus AJ Styles. Dudes have never fucking met before. How is it that guys with no history beyond a few weeks ago are telling a better story than the guys who literally showed up on the main roster on the same fucking day? How is that possible? How is it possible with Roman Reigns and with AJ Styles and their feud? No history beyond the fucking Royal Rumble this year, telling a better story than people who showed up on the main roster on the same fucking day. It makes no sense to me at all.
Yeah, no, it doesn't make any sense, but I think it has a lot to do with WWE kind of with their tendency to have revisionist history, and secondly, because they just figure that you already know what's happened, and so yeah, here you go, here's your video package, and honestly, I think they feel the pressure from that. I think that they don't know what to do with it. They're like, okay, well, we have history, so here you go, and where it's like, why?
But that's the problem.
That's the problem. That's
because
the
Rollins
problem in this.
Yeah, the problem is Rollins has been away for so long that they just cannot throw this at us and be like, okay, well, here, we're going to throw some random bullshit at you, and this is what you're going to get. No, you have to retell that story because Seth Rollins has been gone for X amount of months, and this is a match 2 years in the making that we've wanted to see how this was supposed to happen at Survivor Series. It has WrestleMania feel all over it. You got to give us that story. I mean, I would understand if Seth Rollins has been here all along and he was the champion and, they're about to feud and everything, then you don't have... I would probably give them a pass and say, okay, we can look back on it. Rollins has been here. Maybe not give us that effort, even though I still think you should. But the fact that he's been gone, that's the biggest problem. They're being lazy, and it just... I don't know. Remember what I said last week or 2 weeks ago when I said that freshness, that newness of Seth Rollins, it has disappeared? That's the problem. They haven't been showcasing that return, that excitement, that buzz of Seth Rollins. They haven't used that to perfection. And that's what I said since day one when Seth Rollins came back. This does not feel like the right time, the right atmosphere, the right vibe. And look at it now. We're heading into this Sunday, and everything I said was true. This was going to be used as filler to get to another story, and here we are. That's the fucking situation we're sitting in right now.
It pretty much
Trump,
is a placeholder
right.
to that triple threat match, as far as I'm concerned. I feel like they really are trying to build up that triple threat match, whether Dean Ambrose wins Money in the Bank or not.
Right.
I really think this was the planting of the seed, that is the direction that they wish to go. And I'm not going to complain about that. I don't think anyone's going to complain about that as a match, but the build-up that is going into it...
You want me to?
Oh, Jay, by the way, what did you say?
Do.
I heard something there. I'm right?
No, I said, Trump, go ahead, give yourself a pat on the back. But I want to go to this comment really quickly in the chat from Grant Harper. He's saying that's so naive of him to say, I guess he's referring to me. AJ Styles versus Cena was a dream match for over 15 years, and of course it's a bigger match than Rollins versus Roman. Well, AJ versus Cena wasn't the only match I mentioned. I also mentioned AJ versus Roman Reigns, and there ain't a goddamn person on this planet Earth that can honestly say that they dreamt of AJ Styles versus Roman Reigns. That wasn't a dream match. Based off of the story that WWE told on TV, they got people excited for that match. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. And if we're in a situation where Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, both of these guys have been groomed to be top stars in WWE, these have been the two handpicked guys to lead the next generation of WWE, then you're damn right I'm expecting this to be a dream match. And you're damn right I'm expecting this to be a big event type feel. And you're damn right I'm going to hold them to a high level of expectations. And that's something that I am not going to apologize for.
Yeah, and keep in mind the fact that, again, they haven't really been the focal point heading into Sunday, because they keep using them, in the middle hour of Raw, the second or third hour, not the third hour, excuse me, the second hour, as opposed to being showcased at the end of the show. I mean, this does not bode well for either one of them. They're at a position right now where they almost feel like they're afterthoughts. And Rollins, since coming back, I still don't feel that presence. I don't know. I feel like he's still on vacation because what we've seen out of him, it almost feels like he's not there right now. It's a weird thing. It's a weird dynamic we're in right now.
Okay, what do we have up next to discuss here on PWF Empire Live? I believe we need to talk about the situation with, speaking of Seth Rollins, he's going back and forth with Bret Hart now. So last year, late 2015, Bret Hart had some harsh words for Seth Rollins because Seth Rollins was in matches with John Cena and Sting at the time that they were injured. And Sting's injury has actually led to him retiring. And we all remember John Cena and his papier-mâché nose that was like over here when it should be, right there. And Bret Hart had some harsh words for Seth Rollins. He called him unprofessional and called him dangerous to be in the ring with. He was reckless and things like that. So recently, Seth Rollins was on Chris Jericho's podcast, and he talked about how Bret Hart's words hurt his feelings. And he was talking about how he looked up to Bret, and he felt a little sad behind his words. And then Bret Hart, a few days after that, he responded back by saying, and I quote, "You shouldn't be mad at me. You should thank me for being so honest, and you should reflect on it and make it a point throughout the rest of your career that you're never going to injure anyone else like that again, period." So, Lucas, this is a topic that you wanted to talk about. So go ahead. The floor is yours. Bret Hart criticizing Seth Rollins for being dangerous in the ring. Yeah,
Bret Hart comes off as a guy that sometimes, yes, he is very cranky and holds a lot of grudges, and he comes off as an angry, mean old man. But I think what Bret Hart tries to do at other times, at other situations when he's mouthing off like this, is he's trying to motivate and use reverse psychology on certain people. And I think that's what he's kind of doing here with Seth Rollins. He's kind of challenging him, motivating him since coming back to prove himself and be better. I don't see it as a case where Bret Hart is just talking to talk out of his ass and, because he wants to stay relevant and he's just this mean, grumpy guy. I think in this case it's different. I just legitimately think that he wants the best for Seth Rollins. And as far as Seth Rollins is concerned, don't be so sensitive, man. I mean, why should Seth Rollins, of all people, really care that much about something Bret Hart said last year, many, many months ago? I mean, I get it. He's a wrestler, and, wrestlers like this would take offense to things like that because they're the ones that perform and they're the ones at the top right now. But for that reason alone, you being at the top, why should you have the time in your hands to go out and care about what somebody like Bret Hart is saying? I mean, that kind of shows the kind of guy Seth Rollins is as well, in my opinion. Maybe he's a bit sensitive in regards to many things. But for me personally,
you don't necessarily have to be sensitive to be offended by something like that, because if being a wrestler is the way that you make your money, not just the way that you make your money, something that you've dreamt of doing all of your life and you've dedicated your life to pursuing that dream, and someone criticizes you in that way, like, the number one goal of a wrestler should be to not injure your opponent. Make sure your opponent is protected. And then when you have someone who's saying this guy is dangerous, he's reckless, he's doing these things, and he's injuring people because he is reckless. Like, Especially coming from a person like Bret Hart being a legend in the
Yeah.
industry, I wouldn't put it past anyone to, feel some type of way from those words.
Yeah, see, it's not just somebody who's saying that. It's a legend of the business who's saying that, and someone who Seth Rollins very well may have looked up to as a kid, and has, and he definitely probably has some influence from him, considering they have a similar size, and Bret Hart was considered undersized in his generation, yet he was a world champion. So I'm sure people like Seth Rollins, of course, are going to look up to a Bret Hart because he was a trailblazer in a lot of ways and a legend. He most definitely is. I do feel, as Lucas does, that he does come across quite bitter. A lot of the time, I go back to that interview he had a few years ago back on Wrestle Talk TV when he talked about, the Triple H and Undertaker matches, and, it was a 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10, and I'm thinking to myself, man, those matches were awesome, and I mean, I think that he had a lot of bitterness in him when he said that statement, and I don't necessarily think this was as much bitter about Seth Rollins as much as it was more of a tip, but it comes off in a different way. It comes off more biting, but it's brutal honesty, as someone said in the chat, that it really is that brutal honesty. Now, whether he's right or not, again, Bret Hart is going to know a lot more about the business than somebody who may even just be in it right now. I mean, Seth Rollins is still up and coming. Even though he's already been world champion, he still is the up and coming. He still has things to learn, no doubt about it. He's a young guy, whereas Bret Hart is obviously a veteran of the business. So I mean, obviously, if I was Seth Rollins, my feelings would probably be hurt too because of the way it came off. But I also think that it's not just as much of a hurting your feelings thing as it is he is trying to just help him out. I think he's saying, like, I remember I saw another statement from him about this, from Bret about this, saying, hey, I think you're one of the best in the world, and that's why I'm saying this to you. That's why I'm cutting into you, because sometimes the best people need to be criticized the hardest, because that's how they get even better.
Yeah.
So I think that there's like multiple ways of looking at it. The beef is definitely probably a little more overblown than it needs to be, I think, overall. And another thing too, I think with the Sting match, I really think that Sting, like, that move, yeah, maybe it is a little bit dangerous in that match with Sting, considering his age. But I mean, he was in the match and fully medically cleared to wrestle. It's not like, I mean, I understand that he has, he was dealing with some injuries already and is obviously in his later 50s. So, but I think he knew what he was signing up for. I definitely don't think Sting holds a grudge against Seth. Obviously, I'm not putting words in his mouth, but I don't think Sting has any issues with Rollins himself.
Well, another thing is, I think that Bret Hart comes from a different time in wrestling, a different generation, where people may look at it that he's being bitter, but for all we know, this guy, he's been through everything, and also, he's an old school guy, so who's to say that a lot of these other old school guys or all these other old school wrestlers don't share the same opinion or don't share the same mentality? I mean, the reason why I'm saying, maybe Rollins could be a bit sensitive is because perhaps back in the day, all these wrestlers had an edge to them, and they had this fire in them all the time where they didn't give a fuck, and they would say anything.
Should he have cursed Bret out?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Old man. That's an edge. That's how you handle a problem. Pull up.
True. But again, like...
Well, that's how you look like a heel. I mean,
yeah, that too.
Baby.
I mean, I know if this was Punk, he probably would have said something, but there has to be more wrestlers like this nowadays.
Is that like 2 or 3 now?
Hey, it's true. But there has to be more wrestlers like these nowadays where, they're not afraid to speak up. I feel like that's the problem nowadays with a lot of wrestlers, is the fact that you don't see a lot of them speak up in this matter that Bret Hart is speaking up. And I'm pretty sure back in the day, Bret Hart was honest as well. This is not something new with Bret Hart. This is something that's always been the case, whether or not he has grudge or not. Back then, there was not much for him to be grudgeful about, but he was always outspoken. So why can't more wrestlers, if they really look up to Bret Hart...
We had a few reasons to...
Before the screw job. Before the screw job I'm talking about. But what I'm trying to say is, why if these wrestlers really look up to a Bret Hart, why not shed light on that criticism? Why not look at it from his perspective? Or hell, why not be as outspoken as he is, instead of, that's not what the intent was. I wasn't trying to hurt this guy. He kind of hurt my feelings. No, don't say that. Okay, Brett, you know what? Maybe you're right. Come on. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, look at it from different angles here.
All right. I say he should have asked Bret Hart to square up. That's what he should have done. Like, you can't run the ropes anymore, so you're running your mouth. Let's meet in the parking lot. What's up? But one thing that I will say, though, this is on a different subject. Bret Hart, when it comes to Triple H, he definitely is fucking bitter. He definitely is. That's a grudge if I ever saw one. It was so funny. I saw an interview from him. He was praising NXT while at the same time talking shit about the influence that Triple H has on the main roster.
I think I was the one that showed you that.
I just wanted to pull him aside, like, Bret, come here for a second. Come here. Do you know who runs NXT? I don't think you know this. Because he was talking about how great the pre-WrestleMania TakeOver Dallas special was as compared to WrestleMania. And he was saying that as if it was Triple H's fault that WrestleMania sucked. And wait a minute. Like, he does share some responsibility in that matter, but on the wrong... You're putting him on the wrong side. Putting him on the wrong side, Brett, but...
Which is funny because he should have more beef with Shawn Michaels, and I still find it surprising to this day that he forgave Shawn Michaels that easily. But, hey.
Especially since Michaels lied straight to his face right after it happened and literally said, I had no fucking idea, man.
Yeah, like Triple H, okay, he had his involvement in that, but he wasn't the one in the ring. He wasn't the one mocking Canada with the flag or shoving it, through his, what. He wasn't the one doing any of that. It was Shawn Michaels. So it's very weird how that has been the case. But I guess it is a bit of envy because we all know that since back in the day, Triple H has always had a bit of power and control behind the scenes. So maybe that has to do a lot with it.
Alrighty, guys, and our last topic that we're going to be discussing on the show tonight, we got the ratings report back from Monday Night Raw, and viewership was down 9% from last week, and the overall rating for the show actually did slip below 3 million viewers. Of course, we had the big NBA Finals Game 5, which could have been the last game of the series and decided the champion, but some stuff happened there. That's not my area of expertise, so let's go ahead, twist this back around to wrestling, and yeah, Monday Night Raw slipped below 3 million viewers. I believe, Evan, you're the one that wanted to talk about this on the show, so go ahead, tee it up.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that the viewership is down under 3 million, and it's actually down from the week before. Especially since this is a go-home show to what WWE is billing as the greatest Money in the Bank pay-per-view ever. And I just find it funny that they're... it's funny already that they're billing it as the greatest Money in the Bank pay-per-view ever. I feel like they're just trying... Here comes Punk reference number 4. They're just trying to go for, to outdo 2011, since that is one of the best pay-per-views in... not only like the last few years, it is one of the best pay-per-views in the last few years, no question about it. And this pay-per-view has to do very well in order to really outrank the 2011 Money in the Bank. And I just find it funny that they are trying to bill this as such an amazing event, but yet their viewership is really like taking a tumble. Now, I'll admit the NBA Finals were on last night, and I was tuned out of that third hour to watch some of that game myself. So obviously I bet that had something to do with it, but it just makes me, really kind of wonder if that's indicative of something right now. Is this product just too much for people to watch? Are people really feeling as positively toward Money in the Bank as WWE is trying to, make it seem? They're trying to make it seem like this pay-per-view is going to be on another level compared to what most would be, especially since it's a non-Big Four. And yet the viewers aren't even really tuning into the go-home show, which is the final selling point. So it's like, hey, if they're not even tuning into the go-home show or the final hour of it, then, how excited are people really? Or did the ratings even really matter? Are we looking too much into it? That's another talking point,
The thing is, when WWE says this is the greatest Money in the Bank of all time, once again, I'll ask, how the fuck can you even make that statement before the pay-per-view even happens? When they say that, they're not referring to the build-up for it at all. They're referring to what we see on paper, which is just those two big matches, John Cena, or the one big match, and the one that they're trying to fool us into thinking is a big match, Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins. But yeah, they're just talking about those two matches because there's a lot of history and intrigue behind them, and they could happen at WrestleMania. And these could be WrestleMania main events here. So since they were on Money in the Bank, this means this is the greatest thing ever. So when they talk about that, they're not referring to the actual stories that are being told heading into Money in the Bank. I'm guessing that they're just relying on the pay-per-view itself to bring in all of this interest, which to me, it just... It gives me a very... like sour feeling, the fact that WWE feels as if they could just rest easy on the pay-per-view itself, because we have all of these hours devoted towards building up that show. You should devote more time and effort to making it feel big without you forcing the message on us, and they're not doing that.
Yeah, that's something they've been doing for a while now. In fact, this isn't anything new. They've always relied on the pay-per-view now to get them the money that they want, and then that's it. You know, this is why the WWE Network has its flaws, because ever since the network has come about, you've seen the reduction in terms of build-up and hype heading into pay-per-views, because now what they do is they want to take the money out of you, they want you to subscribe, and that's all they care about. So zero effort there, because they have the network, and they're all so mighty with the WWE Network. And ever since that damn thing has been born, I have noticed how much the value has gone away from building up pay-per-views, and it's really sad. I mean, yes,
let's not act like it was there before either.
Well, at least before they had to try. Like they couldn't bullshit. They had to try, even if it was bad. They had to try. But now it's like, oh, we don't have to try. Who cares? And yes, we should be excited for Money in the Bank. But I got the same feeling that many others probably felt last night. I was tuned in more to the Game 5 as well. In fact, I didn't even watch most of Raw, to be quite honest with you. I had a DVR, and I only saw the top 2 segments of the night last night because I just don't feel that excitement. 3 hours is too much for me, and I really feel like the third hour of Raw...
Raw is not must-see.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
And the third hour has to go. The brand split came at the right time, because I almost feel like they had to fucking split it up now. They really do.
The thing is, though, if you still have a 3-hour Raw, you're still going to have the same issue with its ratings. Like, even if SmackDown does well as a 2-hour program, hopefully, please, dear Lord, let it only be 2 hours. But, you know, like, I sit there and I'm like, man, you know, if these ratings are struggling this much, like, this is just not a good sign going into that brand split. It's not a good sign at all, because the lower and lower that these viewership continues to get, and it has gotten lower over these last few years, gradually, yes, but it continues to go down, and now under 3 million viewers. That is just insane to me. Like, man, people are just tuning out. It was only 2 3/4 million viewers compared to, what was the average last week? Like 3.25. This week was 2.97 or something. I mean, that's a pretty significant decrease, you know, and you say to yourself, okay, maybe that's not that big of a deal, it's just 1 week, whatever. But, you know, you're going into this brand split where WWE's trying to, they're saying with a brand split, at least as far as I'm concerned, that they do genuinely care about their programming, meaning Raw and SmackDown, and that they really genuinely want those two shows to matter and to be watchable and to be something that people are into. And honestly, they're not really doing an unbelievable job of that. In this 3-hour Raw format, it's been bad since the beginning, and I mean,
it's terrible. It's a clusterfuck. Awful. Like they'll mix in all the good stuff for the very beginning 2 hours of the show. Then by the time you get to the third hour, it's so bad to the point where you forget all the good shit even happened, and that's a huge problem. And another thing is, what we expect out of these 3-hour Raws every week is very good entertainment, because it has that pay-per-view feel and the fact that it's a 3-hour show. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm not entitled to feel that way, that the expectations should be high for Raw every week because they set the standard, oh, it's going to be 3 hours. So then fucking give us a product that's worth 3 hours. But they're not doing that because they know if they were to do that, it's taking away from the purpose of having a network. Oh, we want you to tune into the network to see what's going to happen. I really hope that they get rid of that 3-hour format because that's what's killing wrestling. Well, not wrestling, but that's what's killing WWE right now. It just doesn't feel organic anymore. It just feels like we're putting on a filler fucking show to get to the pay-per-view. That's all it feels like nowadays.
Man, that's more of a TNA type of strategy. They used to do things more like that, where they would build the pay-per-view would be the building point to get to the TV show, and like so the only thing that was really there was the pay-per-view. That was where everything happened, and then the show was just a bunch of filler. And it's weird that WWE's kind of been doing things like that too because they want to sell the network so bad. And it's not like that's not working. They have a lot of people on the network, and that's why I was kind of a proponent of the 2 pay-per-view thing because I think that it works well with the network, and the week-to-week shows lately have just been, I haven't even watched SmackDown in God knows how long. Like, the first SmackDown I'm going to watch in probably 2 to 3 years will be that one on July 19th. You better believe it. I'm definitely going to give it a shot, and I'm definitely going to watch it. If it's a 2-hour show and it's good, I may watch more of SmackDown every week, believe it or not, than Raw. Because if Raw continues on this path, and now with a half a roster and still 3 hours, I feel like the amount of filler is just going to go up tenfold. And so the viewership is just going to go down even further. It's like, it's a really bad ratio for WWE right now. Honestly.
Now that I
guys, just to go back to that whole 2 pay-per-view thing, told you guys this months ago, and I'm going to reiterate it now. WWE is in a situation where they're just feeding off of themselves. And I'm not saying that it's going to be the downfall of the company next week, next month, next year. But I guarantee you, if WWE does go down, this is going to be the reason why. Just remember, I said that.
Yeah, and just to give you more credit to what you're saying, I almost feel like because they're waiting for this brand split to happen, they're just sitting it out. Like, they're just waiting for July 19th. That's what this almost feels like. Like every week now, from now until July or whatever, oh, we're not going to put on a good show. Why? We have a brand split coming up. Let's get prepared for that. And let's give these Raws shitty Raws because, we don't have to try. We have a brand split coming up. That's what this almost feels like. It's like they're waiting, and they don't want to give us anything good until that comes. And that's not the way they should be handling business right now.
Well, that's it, guys, for this episode of PWF Empire Live. We'll be back later on this week with a preview of WWE Money in the Bank. We'll be talking about the actual matches that will be happening on the show, giving our predictions for winners, all of that good stuff. So make sure you guys tune into that. Make sure you follow me on Twitter so you know exactly when that show will be happening, right down there at PWF Empire. Feel free to follow Lucas at Lucas Rojas 27 and Evan at EM Ultra Official. Until then, for our preview show, we'll catch you guys later. Thank you for tuning into this show. And before you head out, go ahead and rate the video. Thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever you think it deserves. Feel free to rate it, and we'll catch you later. Peace.